by John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and performed in 1968. Thank you, Kim Hedrum, for sending that to me. I really appreciate it. And how about let's do a little bit of a musical mood today. Let's do this one that I wrote back in, about 1964. Well, you've heard that before. Got a little bit of noise in my earphones here. I don't know quite what that is. But hopefully that Candy will fix that, since she's joining me on my cell phone, and I guess she's listening to something else there. A little bit distracting. But that song you've heard before. You've heard before, but maybe you didn't hear the whole thing. Now, I wrote this for a movie that we were planning on making. My friend Jimmy Gray did the thing. Hello. Hey, thanks. Who am I talking to? Oh, hey, Trevor. Hang on a second. Okay, go ahead. Oops. Yep, I lost that. Hang on a second. Alright.
Hi, this is Trevor. Leave me a message and I'll get back.
Yeah, that was my son calling in to say happy birthday. And somehow I missed him there. Let me see if I can get Candy back up here. Okay. Alright. Lost that one. We're trying to get that one back. Okay, I got that line back here. And yeah, I thought you might like to hear this whole thing, because of what I wrote about 45 years ago. I wrote a song about it. I wrote a book about it. Matter of fact, my friend Candy is reading that right now. A couple of other, maybe 2 or 3 people in the whole world have read the Solomon series or are in the process of reading it. And this whole song was about that man and what what we, you'd have to read the book to understand the whole thing, but let's see if we can pull this up.
So free, your feathers of fire light the sky, and your spirit is one with me. Your wings span the mighty ocean, your eyes see everything. The slightest of your emotions can make a continent spring. In all your mighty glory, vanished from the skies. It was just another story. It's millions of man-made lies. They tell of how you fell from the sky. Your once proud beauty of flame to vanish from your pride. The memory of your name, rainbow bird, almighty phoenix, come once more into the eyes of man. From the ancient days of Atlantis, its centuries numbered 10 times 10 times 10. Wise men whisper, says you will come again. And once more, man will prosper beneath your rainbow wings. And on your mighty black back, there shall stand that man. Words will be for the voice you like, a guide for the race of man. Oh, rainbow bird, mighty phoenix, come once more to the eyes of man. From the ancient days of Atlantis, its centuries numbered 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 times 10.
All right. I wrote that, yep. Long time ago. And, we are taking calls up on Blog Talk. If you're on Blog Talk, the number 646-915-8774. You can call in. We got a few guests that are up there that haven't bothered to register, haven't bothered to choose a name for them, but hey, they're listening. That's important. That's what's important. Now, I have been demonized and attacked, and I did when this all started, folks, 20 years ago. I did not know where it was coming from, and for many, many years, even while I was doing the show, I did not know why I was being attacked for starting the militias in Governor Gary Johnson's office. Governor Gary Johnson came to my home in Bingham, New Mexico, visited me. I escorted him on a motorcycle while he was riding his bicycle a few times. And I worked with the chief of police or at least knew the chief of police, of the state police in New Mexico. When the FBI listed me and their little brochure, encouraged by the Southern Poverty Law or the ADL, they listed me in armed and dangerous. And I called up the chief of police and I said, hey, what's the deal here? What are you trying to do? Get me killed by cops? Don't worry about it, Clay. The governor recalled every one of those booklets after you talked to him yesterday. And you don't have anything to worry about for me or any of my men. I've been reading your magazine for 20 years. Now, it took me almost 10 years to figure out that the problem was Jewish, and we didn't know about it. We didn't know about it because we didn't speak German. And the Jewish-controlled press, the ones that declared war on the German people about 1937 or 38, somewhere in that neighborhood, they declared war on the German people with a full-page ad in the New York Times. And it was these same people that were coming after me. And I study history. So I've gone back and read not only what the Germans wrote, not only what Hitler wrote, and that's up there. Now, I've had people attack me. Well, Hitler was a tyrant. Hitler, you can't do that. I can't support you if you support Hitler. Hitler's dead. Didn't die when they said he did. Lived in Argentina for many, many years. Didn't die in that bunker, and wasn't the monster that the communists made him out to be. Now, somehow you may think that communism lost and when that wall fell between East and West Berlin, but the communists tried to keep this system up. They kept East Germany. The Stasi in East Germany were still oppressive of the German people. After World War II, after World War I, the German people were persecuted, prosecuted, and murdered by the communists. They also went out and murdered their own people after Marx and Lenin installed communism after the Bolshevik Revolution. And to read and to understand what happened then, hopefully you are awake enough and aware enough and have not been so programmed that we can't break that programming that your television or Talmud vision has installed on. Revolutionary communism is socialism, Marxism, Bolshevism, and Jews who deny that many Jews are communists are jockeying themselves into the position of citizen-owned tolerance. There must be a widening and strengthening of the united fronts against fascism if by taking full part in the forging of this united front, the Jews of America write themselves down as communists, so be it, said James Waterman Wise, son of Rabbi S.S. Wise, on the New Masses back in October 29, 1935. Are the Jewish masses communistic? The following is from the New York Jewish National Day of May 11, 1937, approvingly quoting, the Social Justice Committee of the Rabbinical Assembly favors the general tendency of the recently adopted social legislation. In particular, approves the scope of TVA. It endorses the President's plan for the reorganization, hacking of the Supreme Court. It sends its heartiest and best wishes to the Spanish loyalist government that's communist directed by Moscow. And what we're talking about is religious subversion of politics. the Central Conference of American Rabbis, the largest organization of the kind in the world, issued the following definition to the American system as printed by the New York Times in September 13th, 1936. We challenge the present social system. We advocate socialization of basic enterprises. There's only one way in which the American people can escape fascism and communism, and that's through a thoroughly socialized democracy, and such a democracy is communistic. Now, your founding fathers, like Benjamin Franklin, told you that a democracy was two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. Jewish writer Alter Brody in the New Masses of May 12, 1936 said the undeniable problem of the Jew can only be solved in a socialist society. Jewish socialism is anti-American. Now, the preface to the 1920 World Significance of the Russian Revolution was written by London Jewish savant Dr. Oscar Levy. He admits Jewish elements supply the driving force for both communism and capitalism. From The Jewish State by Theodore Herzl, the Zionist leader, we read, "When we Jews sink, we become a revolutionary patriot, communistic. When we rise, there also arises our terrible power of the purse, capitalistic. On both sides, they can't lose." Alfred Nossig, in his book Integrals Judatum, Berlin, 1922, said the modern socialist movement is for the greater part a work of the Jews. From key to mystery, he lets the secret out. The author of America's Great Menace, a booklet by B.A.M. Shapiro, a Christian by faith, a Jew by race, makes this statement. "I meet the communists in their hunting grounds, Union Square in New York City. How will you start the revolution here? I ask them in their own language. We communists will work underground and use the same method that brought about the Russian Revolution by assassinating government officials and scaring the others to death. We will plant cells in their fashionable clubs and homes, poison their food. Did we not do so in Russia and succeed? The time has come when patriotic Jews of America should feel the same responsibility for the evil deed of communists hatched and planned in the camp of Israel." Now, this is exactly what happened to John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy. They were assassinated by the communists, by the Jews. They were going against the Federal Reserve. So, and I was right there. I was there on Elm Street the evening after they assassinated Kennedy. My friend Galen Dougherty was sitting on the railroad bridge and saw the two CIA snipers on the bridge shoot Kennedy. Now, the following is from a letter of May 20th, 1936, from Rabbi Edward L. Israel to Dr. Harry L. Ward of the League Against War and Fascism, published in the Detroit Jewish Journal in June 5th of 1936. I write this letter with enormous regret and only after deliberation. It is my resignation from the American League Against War and Fascism. We of the religious groups had to do a great deal of rationalization when we entered a united front against communism. Jewish rabbis, basically communistic, also the League Against War and Fascism. And Rabbi Abba Hela Silver, in his 1928 book, The Democratic Impulse of Jewish History, emphasizes how persistent and dominant has been the democratic impulse in Jewish history, alike in the political life of the people as in its economic and religious life. He admits that the nomadic desert life of his forefathers, many tribes, were communistic in structure. So the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Jewish author Lewis Brown's 1930 book, How Odd of God, declares, we intend to remake the Gentile, what the communists are doing in Russia, usurping the functions of the Creator. This is basically what the Bible meant when it said, beware the Jews who say they're Jews, but are not, or of the synagogue of Satan. They knew what was happening 2,000 years ago and tried to warn us. Hey, David is here. David's here. Yeah, I got a haircut, David. This is the new look. But you probably can't see that from there. I tried to call you just to give you a heads up, but you didn't answer your phone. Dr. D Charger is with me. And, matter of fact, let me play a song here while I warm up my coffee. And what do I have? What do I have here that would be pretty interesting?
Now have you seen them flying saucers or some of them black helicopters flying down low and over my backyard recently? See them foreign troops in ninja suits leaving imprints of their combat boots and metal down near the neighbor next to me. For they're building concentration camps with those great high postage stamps to protect and defend their great democracy. Though my vote in the last election didn't quite match the same projection, maybe those beautiful talking heads on my TV. And when I called them to complain, and I asked them to explain, they just said that it proves that you're not in the groove of the new majority. Yeah, sure. Well, just between you and me, can't you feel the conspiracy? Can't you sense the hypocrisy, as they call it democracy? Well, it's a threat to your sanity, and not to liberty, and it's all evil, filthy, rotten conspiracy.
Well, I hate that, but that's exactly what it is. And we've got the history to prove it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got the history to prove it. And here we got Rabbi Stephen Weiss, Zionist leader. He's the editor of the monthly magazine Opinion, April 1837. Carried the mention of 3 prizes awarded to writers on the subject, a way to combat anti-Semitism. One prize winner, Rabbi Victor Epstein, proposed the present program of palliative relief must give way to a program of fundamental reconstruction. American democracy must be socialized by subjecting industrial production and distribution to the will of the People's Congress. Energetic measures must be adopted to prevent the inevitable reactionary attempt to overthrow democracy. In Spain, the government found it necessary to arm its workers. In America, let it be beforehand by strengthening the organization of labor and by systematically removing from key positions in the Army and National Guard all officers whose loyalty to the Constitution may be qualified by class allegiance. Now, what have I told you? What have I told you in the Free American magazine over the last few issues? We've given you lists of all of the officers that Obama has drummed out of the service, removed from the service, because they were still loyal to the Constitution. And I've told you for 20 years now that if they sprayed us with Agent Orange, Monsanto, by the way, created that, sprayed us with Agent Orange and gave us depleted uranium to use for ammunition because they didn't want well-trained, combat-hardened soldiers coming back to America to see the communist mess that they put us in. Every plank on the Communist Manifesto intact in America. Communism is Judaism for the masses. The Jews in Poland are overwhelmingly represented in the ranks of communists, and as such are not only conspicuous but very active. There must be something wrong somewhere if millions and millions of Germans, Arabs, Hungarians, Romanians, French, Englishmen, Italians, Poles, Russians, Americans nurse antipathy toward the Jews. From an advertisement addressed to the American Jewish Congress, published in the New York Times, January 20th, 1937, signed by the Guild of Polish Newspapermen in America, protesting against international Jewry's attack on Poland. Editor Margosius of the New York Jewish National Day answered by saying the Gentiles were all wrong, Jews were innocent, and Rabbi Weiss said the world must atone to the Jews for its sins against Jewry. This is ego madness. Official figures in a speech delivered on September 12, 1935 in Nuremberg by Joseph Goebbels said in Germany 300 National Socialists fell victim to the communist terror. On April 30th, 1919, 10 hostages in Munich were shot through the backs under the responsible of the Jewish commissars Levin, Nissen, and Axelrod. The Jewish Chekist Bela Kun, or Aaron Kahn, ordered the execution of over 60,000 people in the Crimea. This whole thing in Ukraine and Crimea is a century old. They executed 60,000 people in Crimea. The municipal hospital and Alupka, 272 sick and wounded were brought out on stretchers and shot. Almost without exception, the intellectual leaders of communism in Germany were Jews, among them Weinhard, Abraham, Levi Linz. The theory underlying the fanaticism was negotiated by the Jew Mordecai, alias Marx. A variant of the same theory sprang from the brain of the Jew LaSalle, police commissioner of Poland, said in March 1935 that 98% of those arrested in Poland on charges of communist intrigues were Jews. That is communism with the mask off. Communism has been thought out, set afoot, and led under the inspiration of the materialistic thought which is incarnated in international Jewry. This discloses the actual secret of our anti-Jewish policy and Germany's uncompromising fight against Jewry. Materialism gone bad dog. Warning from the Russians. The following proclamation from exiled Russians was published in February 27, 1936. Issue of the National American in Russia sent this proclamation all over the world to put unwary Gentiles on guard. the goal of Jewish communism is the establishment of a Jewish world hegemony in whose realm the non-Jew will be reduced to serfdom, slavery for Gentiles. Now, folks, I have tried to explain this to you. I have told you in the terms that I can that this is, they have refined the art of slavery to the point that the slave don't know they're slaves. And this is exactly what is happening now. They passed a law in Florida that you're not even allowed to be off of the grid. You got to be tied to the grid. The communists own the electric companies. They own the oil companies. That's what they used our soldiers to take them over to fight for it. And same thing's happening all over again. Every time we straighten something out, think we got something straightened out in Iraq, it pops back up again because the Jews are basically the Mystery Babylon. And they want to enslave you again. What I'm giving you here is not hate. And I've been drummed off 2 radio stations because I put out this kind of information. Oh, if you just do so much better, Clay, if you didn't talk about the Jews, if you do so much better. You could do like Alex Jones. Alex Jones? Excuse me? I've got a friend, right? Clay, we just got to reach out to the good Jews. We gotta do that. We got to reach out to the good Jews. And every week, my friend, a little deluded, but he got him a girlfriend now, and I'm really happy about that. Randall Mock, Truth Seekers. I got ran out of the Truth Seekers. My grandmother was Jewish. My grandmother was Jewish. How can you talk about the Jews like you do? How can you do that? We got to get you out of Truth Seekers. Has Clay taken over Truth Seekers? I mean, you've had him speak here. You know. And my magazine comes out. Randall don't tell you about it because he's being pressured by the Jews, but he puts out a notice. He puts out a notice almost every week about Alex Jones. Now, I know Alex. I met him personally. I let him speak in some of my things, but let's see what Alex has to say about it. When somebody calls him up on the station, and again, this is all misdirection. See, we don't screen calls here. See, I let you up. You're just wrong, that's all. See, and I suspected from the attitude, this, didn't mention it, and because I've kind of got a thing about it, I don't go up to a stranger, I don't go up to anybody and ask, are you Jewish? But I probably should. Alex.
Let's talk to Scott in Mass. You're on the air, Scott. Thanks for holding.
Hello, Mr. Jones. How are you?
I'm okay. Pretty tired, but okay.
I'd like to say that we're in a depression. Our economy is crumbling. Look, Goldman Sachs, Bear Stearns, the Rothschilds, and other greedy and evil international Jewish bankers on Wall Street have destroyed our economy, Mr. Jones. And not only have they destroyed our economy, but the Federal Reserve Bank was founded by Paul Warburg, which is a Jewish invention. And that doesn't even include the wars that are raging in Iraq and Afghanistan, which I blame on the American-Israel Public Affairs Committee. We were attacked, by the way, on 9/11 because of the over $10 billion the U.S. gives to Israel annually in military and economic aid.
Okay, so Scott, let me say something here. I am Jewish, okay? Because we don't screen your calls. Did we screen your call?
What
Say that
difference
again?
does it make?
I am Jewish, but I just want to get that out of the way, that these are real phone calls here on air. Sir, that all the ills in the world are caused by Jews is wrong. Jews are a very diverse, wide group of people who have a lot of different political ideas, and every time I talk about the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, people then say, well, the Rockefellers are Jewish too. And more wealthy than the Rockefellers. People say, quit covering up for Israel just because I cover all the big corrupt forces that are out there. I mean, are you saying, sir, that every evil in the New World Order is flowing out of Jews? I am Jewish.
Mr. Jones, and to prove it, if you don't believe me, have all your listeners pick up a book and read called The Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. It is not a hoaxer. It is not a forgery that the Jews maintain. The gist of it is that the Jews are out for world domination, and they have it now in the United States said that the Jews control world finance, the media. Now they control the U.S. foreign policy. The Jews, Mr. Jones, have inflicted tremendous harm upon the United
Well, let
States.
me ask you a question. From your perspective, should the Jews be gotten rid of?
Yes, they should. In every country...
All right, I'm going to stop you right there. I am Jewish.
We should start with you. This is the... he has presented more damage and done more damage to the American people and the Patriot movement than probably anything else. He wants you to be afraid. He wants you to be afraid. He wants you to be very, very afraid. He wants to blame it on Nazis. He wants to blame it on Hitler. It's a Nazification of America. Well, the Jews had a role into Nazi, probably got the whole name Nazi probably came from the Ashkenazi Jews. And let's go back to a little bit of history. Jews in Poland, back in the 30s again, are overwhelmingly represented in the ranks of communists, and as such are not only conspicuous but very active. This warning from the Russians. Now, this following proclamation from exiled Russians was published February 27, 1936, in the issue of the National American in New York City. We, the victims of Jewish communism in Russia, send this proclamation all over the world to put unwary Gentiles on guard. The goal of Jewish communism is the establishment of a Jewish world hegemony in whose realm the non-Jews will be reduced to serfdom. The communists are Jews, and Russia is being entirely administered to them. Jewish minority rule, the same as in the United States right now. The part played by the international Jewish finance in furthering Bolshevism and communism is a source of bewilderment. A source of bewilderment to those who do not understand that the money, power, political Zionism and communism are but weapons in the hands of international Jewry. The astute Jew financiers would not be so stupid or insane as to put vast amounts of capital into the worldwide activities of Bolshevism unless they were certain in their own minds that their own interests and power were secure. That from the London Catholic Herald of October 21st, 28th, and November 4th of 1933. What we're looking at here, folks, is insatiable greed. And I've told you, the New World Order, I've studied this. I study history. The New World Order is one world government of the bankers, by the bankers, and for the bankers, and it's outlined and detailed in the protocols of the Elders of Zion. For that reason, this show is blocked in every library across the country. It's blocked at Intel. It's blocked it into it. There's some group out there, some Jewish group called the Abusive Host Blacklist, and they try to tell you that freeamerican.com is it's a porno site. The fact is, and while they've gone out and killed other reporters, killed other television hosts, they killed Michael Hastings, they killed John F. Kennedy, they killed Robert Kennedy, they killed my friend Bill Cooper, they tried to kill Casey Nethercott after he wanted to help me, after I had a 70-acre ranch down in on the border of Arizona. And they tried to kill him after they tapped our phone calls. They knew I was coming down to see him. I told him, he said, Clay, I want to help you. I want to help you get the Free American started again. You're the only ones telling the truth out there. Thanks, Casey, but it's kind of expensive. Clay, I got $1.5 million in one account. Money's not an issue. I got 70 acres down here. We're stopping the illegals coming across the border. We're turning them over to the Sheriff's Department, turning them over to INS. Come down here and see me. Buy me breakfast, I'll be down there. They shot him coming out of Safeway with my breakfast. When I referred to 9/11 as an exaggerated case of Jewish lightning, right before I had just helped Casey get out of jail in Texas, where he had been arrested for pistol whipping 2 illegal aliens. I helped him get out of the Jim Hogg County, or I call it Boss Hogg County in Texas. And Morris Dees from Southern Poverty Law filed a lawsuit against Casey in Arizona on behalf of the 2 illegal aliens that accused him of pistol whipping them. And he threatened, Morris Dees threatened the Jim Hogg County Sheriff's Department. If they didn't retry Casey, they would sue them. So they retried Casey after he'd been released on the hung jury. They retried him, sent him to prison in Texas, and since he couldn't appear to the court case in Arizona, they took his 70-acre ranch with the UN base on the other side of the river and gave it to the 2 illegals. Haven't heard from Casey since. Now, in 1923 book, The Jew, Hilaire Belloc said the continued propaganda of communism throughout the world in organization and direction is in the hands of Jewish agents, backed by the consolidated wealth of Jewry. If the American nation ever gets the idea that the Jewish right and communism are synonymous, there will be the possibility of a pogrom in the United States that will make those of the Tsar look like a small parade, said William Gerard, former U.S. ambassador to Germany, in New York Times. No Russian program, segregation, deportation, concentration, Madagascar. The forces which made the Soviet are going to create a Soviet power in the U.S., said Secretary Earl Browder of the Communist Party, speaking June 2nd, 1934, in a Madison Square Garden meeting in New York City under the auspices of 100 Jewish organizations. You can see this in the congressional record. Born from within tactics of the were set up, the present communist Jewish-controlled government in Russia, the same kind of alien and usurpers are now at work to secure the overthrow of the government itself in the United States, said Congressman L.T. McFadden, 1933 to 1934, in the congressional record. Secret sabotage, stabbing in the dark, in Israel, its past, its future, a 1937 French book, the Capitalism, the author makes his declaration: communism is nothing more than the triumph of Jewish values over Christian values. Jewish communism, anti-Christ. The Saturday Evening Post of October 26, 1935, quoting NRA General Hugh Johnson, said Frankfurter is the most influential single individual in the U.S. This Karl Marx professor was born in Austria and is a national committeeman of the American Civil Liberties Union, which was described in Congressional Report 2290 of June 17, 1931, as closely affiliated with the communist movement in the U.S. It's quite apparent that the main function is to protect communists and their advocacy of force and violence to overthrow the U.S. government. Its chief counsel was Arthur Garfield Hayes, a Jew. And a check for $100 was recently received by Commonwealth College from Louis D. Brandeis, Associated Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. He wrote that the money was to be used for such purposes as you deem most viable. The Mena, Arkansas Dispatch, published in the Arkansas Gazette of May 30, 1935. This college has been under the legislative investigation for communism and free love practices. Is Brandeis unfit to be a U.S. Supreme Court Justice? Let's talk about incitement to war. Now, folks, this is history. What is the term? Remember the term. If you fail to learn from history, you are doomed to repeat it. Yeah, okay. Snapper says, I've been listening to your show on YouTube for a couple of years. Don't usually come on Blog Talk Radio. Well, welcome. Okay. And David, the Jews aren't going to wake up. They don't care about that. They don't care about that. All they care about is their control, their money. And here's some Jewish testimony. I like to share this because I like for you to hear it from their own lips, their own words, their own plans. And they're sitting trying to point the finger at me, going, oh, he's anti-Semitic, he's anti-Semitic, he's anti-government. Yeah, you're damn right I'm anti-government if our government is a communist government that's been applied here. And that's why it's important to go back to Germany. It's important to see why Hitler got the power that he did. Doesn't mean he made all the right decisions. But the people that are hollering the loudest and pointing the finger at the Nazis are all the Jews. No agitators did more to bring in the revolution, the French Revolution of 1848, than two Jews, Heinrich Heine and Ludwig Born. It was a Jew, Leon Trotsky, who led the Red Army, which saved the communist cause in Russia. It was a Jew, Karl Liebknecht, aided by a Jewish, Rosa Luxemburg, who led the Spartacus insurrection in Germany. It was a Jew, Bela Kun, who set up the Red regime in Hungary. It was a Jew, Kurt Eisner, who led the Soviet push in Bavaria. To the Jew, revolutionary activity seemed to be the one road to ultimate freedom. And that's quotations from the book How Odd of God by Lewis Brown, a former rabbi. These people are mass murderers. And you got Hillary Clinton and you got Dianne Feinstein, who wants to take your guns And Dianne Feinstein is pointing the finger. Hillary Clinton is pointing the finger at NRAs. You people that are in the NRAs are gun owners of America. You gun owners of America. You're the next peasants of the Ukraine. You're one of the 60 million people they plan on killing here, and they actually may plan on killing more. They've already killed more than 60 million Americans through abortion that they fund. The revolution in Russia, and I've tried to tell you this, what happened in Russia is happening here now, right now. The revolution in Russia set creative forces free, and see what a large company of Jews were available for immediate service. Social revolutionaries, Mensheviki, Bolsheviki, a majority minority socialists. Jews are to be found among the trusted leaders and routine workers for all these revolutionary parties. So said Rabbi Judah L. Maganese of New York and Palestine in the Jewish Forum, February 1919. Now, this following is from a pamphlet issued December 1st, 1920, page 13, the American Jewish Committee, entitled Protocols, Bolshevism, and the Jews, denying that Russian Bolsheviks were Jews other than a few leaders like Trotsky merely by birth. On the other hand, the leaders of the Mensheviki, who were sworn foes of Bolshevism, are to a large extent Jews. Among the chiefs of the Constitutional Democratic Party of Russia, who are strongly opposed to the Soviets, are Venerver, Sinsla, Panachik, Komentary, Landau, and Friedman, all prominent Jews. Among the leaders of the People's Socialists, the Socialist Revolutionary, and the Mensheviki section of the Social Democratic Party, bitter opponents of the Bolsheviks, are a large number of Jews. This is confession proof that Jews are to be found usurping leadership in all oppositions as well as governing parties. That's what's happening to the Republican and Democratic parties here, and the Libertarians even have been affected because they're calling for open borders, and they still use the power of the press to try to demonize the whole hemp revolution. Now, the New York Times of March 24, 1917, reported how Jacob Schiff financed revolutionary propaganda in the Tsar's army, quoting as follows his message to a New York Carnegie Hall mass meeting celebrating the Bolshevik coup. Will you say for me to these present at tonight's meeting how deeply I regret my inability to celebrate with the friends of Russian freedom the actual reward of what we had hoped and striven for these long years, the death of 30 million Gentiles in slavery for 150 million more. In London Jewish Chronicle of February 7th, 1936, a letter by S. Landman, former Jewish propaganda agent of the British government, contains the following. The only way to induce the American president to come into the World War was to secure the cooperation of the Zionist Jewry by promising them Palestine. Zionists carried out their part and helped bring America into the war. The Landman statement is confirmed by David Lloyd George, wartime Prime Minister of England, contained in the United Press cable from London dated June 15, 1936, reading in part, the promise of the national home for Jews in Palestine to gain worldwide Jewish support for the Allied cause in the World War was detailed to the House Committee today by David Lloyd George. We came to the conclusion that it was most vital that we should have the cooperation of the Jews throughout the world. I hear testimony to the fact that the Jews responded. They were helpful in America and even in Russia. In his book, Lord George Bentinck, a political biography, 1858, Benjamin Disraeli, afterwards Jewish Prime Minister of England, wrote, an insurrection takes place against tradition and aristocracy, against religion and property. The natural equality of man and the abrogation of property are proclaimed by the secret societies, which form provisional governments, and men of the Jewish race are found at the head of every one of them. The people of God cooperate with atheists. The most successful, the most skillful accumulators of property ally themselves with communists. The world is governed by very different personages from what is imagined by those who are not behind the scene. Invisible rule, a diabolical Jewish system. From the American Hebrew of September 10th, 1920, the Bolshevik Revolution was largely the outcome of Jewish thinking and discontent. What Jewish idealism and discontent have so powerfully contributed to accomplish in Russia, the same historic qualities of the Jewish mind and heart are tending to promote in other countries. And helped by the Roosevelt Jewish radical administration of the U.S. Roosevelt is the one that took your gold. You were forced to turn it in by law or you become a criminal. And they're going to do the same thing with your guns. May do the same thing with your gold again. You were forced to take that in and turn it into the bank. They gave you $16 for it. A few months later, after they got all the gold, the price of gold went to $32. Now what is it? The Maccabean, the Jewish Zionist organ in New York, November 1905, page 250, a Jewish revolution said, the revolution in Russia is a Jewish revolution, a crisis in Jewish history, says M. Cohen, Jew, and the communists, and April 12, 1919. Without exception, it may be said that the great Russian social revolution was indeed accomplished by the hands of the Jews, who led the Russian proletariat to the dawn of the international, and not only led, but are also leading the Soviet cause, which remains in their safe hands, that from key to mystery. In Jewish boast lies Gentile salvation. On page 13080 of the Congressional Record of June 27th, 1934. $50 years ago, or more, 60, on my birthday, June 27th. This is prison. On the Congressional Record of June 27, 1944, it's printed. Following the World War, Bernard Baruch appeared before a select Congressional committee and testified to the fact he had complete control of the resources of the American nation during the war. I probably had more power than perhaps any other man did in the war. Did he use it for Jewry first? The Jew power in the U.S. has grown steadily since then. In the Reflex, a magazine edited by Dr. S.M. Malamud, Jew, issue of November 1927 is printed the following, advertising the Jewish Encyclopedia. Did you know that no big war can be waged without the financial assistance of the Jews? So are wars Jewish interests or Jewish harvests? There's one way to abolish the capitalistic state, and that is to smash it forever. This means civil war, said M.J. Ogren, Russian-born Jewish editor of the New York Morning Freiheit, the largest communist newspaper in the U.S., as quoted in the congressional record of June 25, 1934, from the January-February 1928 issue of the Century magazine, is this by a Jewish writer, Marcus Eli Ravage. We Jews have taken your natural world, your ideals, your destiny, and played havoc with them. We are at the bottom not merely of the greatest war, but nearly all of your wars. We did it solely with the irresistible might of our spirit and ideas and propaganda. What have I lost here? How did I lose 2 stations here? What do we got here? Don't know when we lost you there. Truth Radio and Crusade Radio. Sorry, I didn't see that we had lost you. And you can still get the whole show off of Blog Talk. Evidently we stayed on there. Again, my apologies here. We are dealing with the history. We're dealing with history here pre-World War II, following World War I. The war breeders. Who benefits mostly by war? Lazar Mershevich Kanasevich is a great man. He will one day rule over the country of the Tsar. His sister, who will soon be 21, is now Stalin's wife. From the moment the Jewish newspaper published in Russia, issue of November 13, 1934, as reproduced in a leaflet published by the Defenders of Wichita, Kansas, giving a list of the names of the Soviet district chiefs. 90% were Jews. Kanasevich is still Stalin's intimate, notwithstanding alleged purging. The London Jewish World of June 25, 1931, said the real author of the 5-year plan, Kagnanovich, is a Jew and is the favorite of Stalin. So the Jew power behind the throne. A dual conspiracy. From Laville, France, June 15, 1929, by Jewish writer René Gross, quoted in British publication, there is a Jewish conspiracy against all nations and a double assault of Jewish revolution and Jewish finance, top and bottom control. The New York American of April 4th, 1936, quoting a Jewish telegraph agency cable from Paris, says international Jewry is definitely siding with the Spanish government. The New York Morning Freiheit of August 7, 1936, largest communist newspaper in the U.S., printed mostly in Yiddish, said every Jew must support the struggle of the People Front government in Spain. So this is against Spanish national patriotism. Liberal Jews, radical Jews, modernized Jews, agnostic Jews are becoming the dominant element in Jewry. We have produced an overwhelming number of revolutionary banner bearers of the world's armies of liberation. You Gentiles, by Maurice Samuels. The poison of Jewish liberalism brews revolution. From the New York American of August 5th, 1936, quoting Daniel Dubinsky, president of the Radical International Garment Workers Union, I heard of the need of assistance for the Popular Front in Spain and ordered that our headquarters send $5,000. This was done. The same paper published on October 10, 1936, is a photostat of the check drawn. Jewish scientist Einstein announced his support of the Spanish Red government on February 7, 1937. So science and labor has gone red. Angelo S. Rappaport, The Pioneers of the Russian Revolution, London, 1918, published by Stanley Paul and Company, page 250. The Jews in Russia, in their total mass, were responsible for the revolution. Jewish masses, communistic. The Jews are more subject to diseases of the nervous system than other people among whom they dwell. Some physicians of large experience among the Jews have gone so far as to state that most of them are hysterical. From statistics collected by Bouchon, he concludes that they are 4 or 6 times more liable to mental disease than are non-Jews. So are communistic Jews the lunatic fringe? 98% of the Soviet Russia's leaders are Jews. The same slaughter once seen in Russia is now being experienced in Spain, where 80% of the leading red personalities are Jews. Everywhere the undermining work of Bolshevist agents is going on, said Hitler before the National Convention of German National Socialist Party in 1936. Experience taught him. This is why I have Mein Kampf up on my website. So you can learn from history, not to promote skinheads, Nazis, or anyone else, but to support Americans, American patriots, American freedom fighters, and I am the voice of liberty. If you don't support me, if you don't make a donation, if you don't help me keep this show on the air, then you are just as guilty as the communists and the Russians of anybody, of the murderers of Kennedy. You are just as guilty. This is what they do. This is what their whole propaganda is about, to keep you from finding out the truth, to keep you from understanding what's going on. No, Clay, you'd just do so much better if you didn't talk about the Jews. Really. It'd be so much better if we just ignore history and go blindly into the cattle car, blindly into the pens, blindly into the FEMA camps. They've taken away your jobs, they've taken away your income, and homeless people are disappearing. They're trying to make it illegal to be homeless after we broke you. And that's exactly what they tried to do to me, folks. You heard about Andrew Breitbart being murdered. You heard about Michael Hastings being murdered. You didn't hear about their attempts to murder me. Why? Because they failed. And because they didn't want me to get any support. They didn't want me to get any sympathy. So they never told you that they drugged me for 3 months for 3 broken ribs. My God, people. All right. Back to our history lesson. Associated Press cable from Rome, Italy, September 24, 1936, headed by the New York Daily News. Dulce blames Jews for wars. Quoted Roberto Farnese, member of the fascist Grand Council, from the monopoly under the dictatorship of Bolshevik Russia to the prevalence it has achieved in the Bolshevik government of France. The subversive influence of Jews is very evident The cause of existing disorder, the international Jewry, is anti-fascist. Never has a Jew uttered a world of admiration or gratitude for fascism. On the contrary, moral and material aid is given by the Jews to the Popular Front in France, to the Reds in Madrid, and to the destroyer of churches under every social order. Communists can't be fascist. Alright, lost another thing here. See if I can get that back. Asia, the magazine, on page 223 of the February-March issue of 1920, printed this: in all Bolshevist institutions, the heads are Jews. They are contemptuous of everyone, which incites the people against them. They look upon Bolshevism as a Jewish affair. Is that chosen arrogance? Now, let me see if we got any calls here. I put this information out all over the place about the show, and nobody called in. Put the number up there. Unfortunately, no one called in. Or maybe they're all at work. Maybe. Or maybe this show is being blocked more than I'm aware of. We do have this up on Blog Talk. We do have it up on Crusade. We do have it up on Crusade. Got a little gap in there, but you can hear the whole thing just by going to Free America and clicking on my name on today's date. Now let me see if I can get back my one lady audience here. Alright, I'm not sure. Hang on. See what I can do here. Let me get another cup of coffee going here. And I'll do a quick little musical interlude.
When your name.
Nope, that one won't work. Yeah, I think this one's appropriate.
Obama got elected, now there is no end to Democrats who wanna tax and spend us into bankruptcy with a tax cheat running our treasury. You spend $2 trillion, what do you get? No recovery, but deeper in debt. St. Peter better call me, for it's too late. I owe my soul to the welfare state. Obama is a leftist, this he can't deny. Govern from the center was a great big lie. Karl Marx's manifesto is his playbook, and you and me soon will be on the hook. You're spending $2 trillion in unsecured cash. Soon the dollar will be pure trash. Our bondholders we have to appease. We owe our soul to the Red Chinese. Obama and his people are making a mess. Bernanke's fired up the printing press, printing money that don't exist. No wonder America is getting peeved. You spend $2 trillion, they ain't done yet. Obama and Pelosi piling up the debt. I work hard for my money, this I don't deserve. We owe our souls to the Federal Reserve.
All right. Now there won't be a guest today, Rabbi Ted. Kiss my ass. Go to hell. Get out of my room. Now, let's see what we got here. Let's talk about Jewish assassins in honor of the coward Rabbi Ted that says he listens to my show because he gets paid to do it. Francanti Leon de Ponson said in the 1929 edition of The Secret Powers Behind the Revolution, on the 28th day of June 1914, the Archduke, heir to the crown of the Austrian monarchy, and his wife succumbed to the bullets of the Jewish assassin Princip. The Jew Weiss assassinated Senator Henry Huey Long of Louisiana. From The Truth Behind the Slump, 1932, by Ian Fields, the enormously significant thing today is that the Jewish power of the purse and the revolutionary activities are working in a common direction, and there is a massive evidence they are working in unison. A deadly enemy. New York Mayor LaGuardia's name is among those of 20 other leftist Jews listed as the sponsor for the 1933 call for the Second American Revolution, issued by the United Action Committee of the League of Independent Political Action, which used these words: "Let us regain our birthright in the Second American Revolution. Let us fight for our rights. We have grown so timid that the words revolution and rebellion send a shiver of terror down our spines." What they're talking about is to overthrow the U.S. government. And this is exactly what Colonel Harry Reiner did when he was sucking up to the Jews, when he was promoting them, when he did his American Spring movement. The National Workers' Party of Great Britain has reprinted the 1920 booklet of Jews in Russia by Victor Marsden, London correspondent in Russia. In it, there are the names of Bolshevist officials, which total 545, of whom 447 were Jews. Of the 11 members of the Central Committee of the opposing Menshevist Party, 11 were Jews. Of the 15 members of the Committee of the Socialist Revolutionary Party of the Right, 14 were Jews. Of the 12 members of the Committee of the Socialist Revolutionary Party of the Left, 10 were Jews. Of the 12 members of the Polish Commune, 12 were Jews. Jews in key posts in all movements, the secret of control. Can you say Joseph Lieberman? Can you say Dianne Feinstein? Can you say Barbara Boxer? The Berger National Foundation was organized to honor the member of Victor L. Berger, a foreign-born Jewish socialist congressman from Wisconsin. The New York State Lusk report of the communist subversion quotes Berger as saying, Red Network, in the Milwaukee Democratic Herald of July 31st, 1909, the safety and hope of this country will finally lie in one direction, that of a violent and bloody revolution. Be prepared to back up ballots with bullets if necessary. The National Council of the Berger Foundation, including these 1931 members, Rabbi E. J. Israel, Rabbi J. G. Heller, Rabbi A. H. Silver, Rabbi D. Sola Poole, Rabbi S. Goldman, Arthur Garfield Hayes, Sidney Hillerman, Morris Berman, Abraham Cahan, Morris L. Ernst, Max S. Hayes, C. Kowalski, Elmer Kahn, the list goes on and on. By their membership in these religionists, do these religionists support the bloody revolution? And this is what they're trying to do right now. They're separating you, making you afraid. They're militarizing your police forces. Their Department of Homeland Security is issuing the bullets, billions of bullets. They're arming the agencies like the BLM. They always go after the farmers first, and that's what's happening right now with the ranchers, with the Bundys, with the folks up there in Nebraska that we talked about 2 days ago. Yeah, so one of the most curious features of the Bolshevik movement is the high percentage of non-Jewish elements among its leaders. Not less than 75% of Jews. Here's unimpeachable testimony. When the Sinister forces which captured Moscow in 1970 turned their steps outward from Russia, we were warned. A report dated September 6, 1918, was forwarded by Sir M. Finlay from the Christians to Mr. Balfour, containing a dispatch from M. Denke of the Netherlands, minister at St. Petersburg, who was watching British interests during the Bolshevik Revolution. The British government in 1919 published its report in a white paper. It read, Bolshevism is organized and worked by forces that have no nationality and whose one object is to destroy for their own end the existing order of things. Lord Queensborough in the London Sunday Dispatch as reproduced in the New York American of June 21st, 1936. Why was the word Jew deleted from the original report and forces substituted, and by whom? I have a firm conviction that this thing, Bolshevik revolution, is Yiddish, from testimony before the Overman Congressional Committee in 1919 by Reverend Dr. George A. Simmons, American Methodist minister, present during the Kerensky Bolshevik regime in St. Petersburg, Russia. Mongol, Jew, Soviet, seeing is believing. The Soviet government has been and still is largely composed of Jews. Special correspondent of the Catholic Times, and that was May 7th, 1937. and a New York Tribune cable of September 6, 1937. Jewish New Year 5698 confirmingly said today is a holiday in Russia, as it was in the beginning. Anti-national plotting, internationalism and versus patriotism. Jewish testimony. What stands in our way everywhere in the world is modern nationalism. That's what we're facing right now, as it was in the 30s, so it is today. They don't like us patriots. They don't like people that are promoting America. And they state this is our chief enemy. We are on the side of liberalism against nationalism. It is for our safety. From Race, Nation, or Religion by Dr. Solomon B. Freehoff. National Americanism, take notice. The Sentinel, Chicago, September 24, 1936, reporting a finding of the Central Conference of American Rabbis. Nationalism is a danger for the Jewish people. Today, as in all epochs in history, it is proved that the Jews cannot live in powerful states where a high national culture has developed. That's from Key to Mystery. Therefore, Gentile patriotism must die. Well, let me try to bring my friend back up. Alright. Alright. We're back here. The phone went dead there. So I got your backup, Candy, and I think I'm still broadcasting on all of my I was just talking about the rabbis that are they're plotting anti-national plotting. This is international New World Order versus patriotism. This is why they're trying to make it somehow a crime to have a constitution on your dash or in your pocket. The Sentinel in Chicago, September 24th, 1936, reported that a finding of the Central Conference of American Rabbis, nationalism is a danger for the Jewish people. Today, as in all epochs in history, it is proved that Jews cannot live in a powerful state where a high national culture has developed. It is the horrible figure of nationalism, political and economic, which grins and mocks at us. From the London Jewish Chronicle of August 13, 1937. The Jewish nationalism is a Jewish question, which must be governed by Jewish principles and not be subservient to the convenience or existences of the time being of any government, however important. As a people, we Jews have not been at war between ourselves. Jews in England against Jews in Germany, or the Jews in France against the Jews in Austria. Not for us. So, Jewish nationalism is okay for Jewry, but not for us, folks. Before a British Royal Immigration Commission in 1902, Zionist leader Herzl said the Jews regard Gentiles as a common enemy. The International Jew, see page 87 of the 1920 book, The International Jew, put out by Henry Ford. Professor Rollins Talmudic quotations say Jewry is living in the state of war with all other people. So why not defend ourselves? Here's a rabbi that smears patriotism. Rabbi Israel Goldstein in the Herald Tribune of November 26, 1934, said, "Beware of those movements which label themselves patriotic. If you scratch a fascist, you are likely to find an anti-Semite," said Rabbi Goldstein. Rabbis bore into politics. And I've got one asshole here on my flash chat that I'm getting real tired of even looking at. But I'll leave him up there so you others know what they do, how they do it. They interfere, they pretend to be your friend. Jews who pretend they can be patriotic, Englishmen and good Jews are simply living lies, said B. Phelps in the London Jewish Chronicle. Zionist leader Katzkin wrote in Der Jude in 1916, "Only the Jewish code rules our life. Whenever other laws are forced upon them, we disregard them as dire oppression and constantly dodge them. We form in ourselves a closed judicial and business corporation. A strong wall built by us separates us from the people of the lands in which we live, and behind that wall is a Jewish state. No Gentiles admitted by these artful dodgers." Gerald Summon, the Jewish chairman of the World Jewry Fellowship, said in its official manifesto, January 1st, 1935, "You cannot be English Jews. We are a race, and only as a race can we perpetuate. Our mentality is of a Hebraic character and differs from that of an Englishman. Enough subterfuge. Let us assert openly that we are international Jews. You cannot serve two masters. The following from you Gentiles." A 1924 book by Maurice Samuel, Zionist leader. "You must learn to dislike and fear the modern and unassimilated Jew more than you did the old Jew. He is more dangerous to you. His enmity to your way of life was tacit before. Today it is active. Between Gentiles and Jews there lies another unbridgeable gulf. Ours is one life, yours is another. This is a primal difference, but it is not reconcilable. It is abysmal. Jews are everywhere, to a large extent aliens. You might say, let us exist side by side and tolerate each other. But the two are not merely different, they are opposed as mortal enemies. We Jews are destroyers, even in the instrument of destruction to which we turn for relief. Jews will remain destroyers forever. Nothing that you can do will meet our demands. So it has to be out with the destroyers. As Alex Jones asked the guy, should you get rid of the Jews? One way or another. And that's been a problem, and you'll see that in the links and the stories we had, because banishing them, and we are just a little too soft-hearted to go out and kill them all. The Ludwig Lewison, he's a Jew, in his book Israel, 1926, says a Jew remains a Jew. Assimilation is impossible because a Jew cannot change his national character. Whatever he does, he's a Jew, and he remains a Jew. So Jewry first, America last. Anti-Semitism increases day by day and hour by hour among nations. It's bound to increase because the causes of its growth continue to exist and cannot be removed. Its remote cause is our loss of the power of assimilation during the Middle Ages. Its immediate cause is our excessive production of mediocre intellect, said Theodor Herzl, Zionist leader in the Jewish state. So the Jewish masses were liable by their own spokesman. The Jewish World, important Jewish organ of England, published in its issue of the 9th of February 1883, the dispersion of the Jews has rendered them a cosmopolitan people. They are the only cosmopolitan people, and in this capacity must act and are acting as the solvent of the national and racial differences. From key to mystery. A poison solvent, shall we submit to dissolution? When you learn that Israel Zangwill has said nationalism spurs up anti-Semitism, you must conclude that international Jewry is against all nations, America included. In the Chicago Tribune of September 25th, 1935, Bernard Baruch says, I believe national pride, patriotism, a lot of nonsense. So he spilled the beans, even Prince's feet slipped. The Jewish Code will supersede the American Court of Justice in the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn, according to an article in the New York American, July 26, 1936, from which the following description is taken. Instead of the old Roman and English common law, which is the basis of American jurisprudence, the Jewish Code intends to decide all cases before it on the wisdom contained in the Talmud over New York, the Talmud vision. No, Rabbi Ted, we are not friends. I will never be the friend of a liar, of a coward, and you are both. Yeah, there are criminals of every race. Yes, and there are Americans and there are Caucasians that have been subverted by your type of thinking, by your type of subversion. As far as I'm concerned, you are the lowest. You, particularly, Rabbi Ted, are the lowest, the most ignorant, the most evil person I've ever met, and I will never be your friend. And you can just go to hell and you can get out of my chat room. You're no longer welcome here. I will delete you every time you show your face. I will kick you. Goodbye. All right. Jacob Braftman, ex-rabbi, in his two books, The Jewish Fraternities and the Book of the Kahila, wrote, Jews must obey the orders of the Kahila and the Beth Din in contradiction to the law of the land. The American Jewish Committee successfully opposed a bill introduced in Congress in 1909 that census enumerators should ascertain the races of all individuals from the U.S. So the Jewish, what we're talking about here, the Jews of America, because of their numbers, interest, and ability, constitute a great political force. They have not usurped this power. It belongs to them as a right. They're going to exercise it as they see fit. What are you going to do about it? This from an editorial of April 9th, 1936, in the great Yiddish daily, the Jewish National Day of New York City. By the right of the self-chosen people, the Brooklyn Rabbi Jewish Examiner of October 20th, 1933, edited by Rabbi Louis D. Gross, said the Roosevelt administration has selected more Jews to fill influential positions than any previous administration in American history. One of the key Roosevelt advisors of Bernard Baruch, a power in the Wilson administration in the absence of Secretary of State Hall and the President from Washington, Mr. Baruch was regarded as the unofficial president. Professor Felix Frankfurter, who had declined a number of important positions in the Roosevelt administration, has nevertheless had his recommendations accepted in filing nearly half a dozen of the most important legal posts in the government and continues to function as one of the president's most trustworthy advisors. So did Roosevelt sell out America to Jewry? He has received a medal inscribed for distinguished services to Jewry. Alright, what else we got here? Yes, ma'am. Call in. The Blog Talk studio is 646-915-8774. Got it? 646-915-8774. All right, I'll bring you up. I'm hanging up on this one now. Just because I don't want to get... All right, do I have you on this one?
Hey, you have me on this one.
Hello, Candy. How are you?
Are you there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Hello, Clay. I don't want to interrupt your history lesson, but I do want to wish you a happy birthday from Sam and Smokey and I. And I also want to let people out there know that firsthand I have seen the work that you do each day, researching the history and researching things online and through books, and that you are telling the truth, that you are getting the truth out there, and that more people need to spread the word, and that more people need to listen and get the word out to those that are not listening. And I basically just wanted to say that, and that they can donate, and that will help your cause.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm really looking for a. I'd like to have a nice, good steak tonight. If we can get some donations, but you know, out of all of the people that we got probably 50 people that wish me a happy birthday on Facebook. Not one of them called in. I put this number up that you just called in. I put that number up to over 50 people. And
well, I want to let you know that I sat on queue for 15 minutes and could not get in. So maybe some of those people did sit in queue and did not get to get in. I don't know what happened with your queue today, but I do know that I sat in queue there for 15 minutes at one time.
Well, you know, it could be that we're blocked here. It looks like I've got 3 people in the chat room, and one of them was Rabbi Ted, who is about the slimiest character, the most cowardly character, pretending to be a rabbi that I've ever encountered. So I don't know.
There are so many people out there that are pretending, and we have to watch our backs. We have to watch every person that tells us something. We have to make sure what they're telling us is the truth.
Now, you know, when we met, you started telling a few people about us on Facebook, and I guess a few other people, and you found the same thing. Now, everything I've been talking about in this show, and I mean everything I've been talking about, is right out of the history books, and it's out of Jewish published papers and books that they wrote, and they're talking about what they want to do, how they want to abolish patriotism, how they want to abolish nationalism, how they want to create a new world order. And
as a teacher, I will tell you, the history books are now being rewrote, and 2/3 of the truth are being taken out of those history books.
It's populist Common Core. There's Common Core. There's Agenda 21. These are all, again, communist. And even the Department of Homeland Security. It was Jews that blew up 9/11. It was the Mossad that blew up 9/11. They used atomic weapons to bring those buildings down. They insured them to the hilt before they blew them up. Thank you, Larry Silverstein. And I referred to it as an exaggerated case of Jewish lightning, which is exactly what it was. and they tapped my phone and arranged an accident and kept me drugged for 3 months for 3 broken ribs. Is that standard procedure?
Not in my book.
Not in my book. And I've let people read my medical records. I got a thick sheaf of them here. And they said, they tried to kill you. They're not supposed to mix these medicines. They're not supposed to give you Halcyon and Haldol and Valium and morphine all at the same time. Yeah, that's what I tried to tell my family, who still don't talk. But as soon as you started talking to me, and by the way, it's this lady is the reason I'm able to get to the store. It's the reason I'm able to get some transportation. She helped me get my Harley out, took me there, and drove hundreds of miles to do that 2 or 3 times. So this is, in my book, this woman has no equal.
Well, that's what patriots are for. They're supposed to be there to help each other and be there for each other.
Well, it doesn't happen that way, and I don't know what it is. I mean, we've covered so many different things. I don't know if it's the fluoride they're drinking. I don't know if it's the chemtrails they're spraying, and that aluminum that they're spraying in those chemtrails gets in your water and reacts with the fluoride, and we've got dementia, we've got Alzheimer's, we've got all kinds of diseases popping up with this, and they've got signs up in Mount Shasta and Mount Rainier. Don't eat the snow, don't drink the snow, don't use the snow for water because it's contaminated with aluminum. And if the snow on those mountains are contaminated with aluminum, you know your water is contaminated.
That's right.
So, you know, is that affecting Americans' thinking? Or is it the education system? The plank, the 10th plank on the Communist Manifesto is government control of education. And as we pointed out here with this show, what they've been doing for 100 years, they're doing right now. The Barbara Boxers, the Dianne Feinstein, the Obamas out there, the Joseph Liebermans, and of course the Christian Zionists like Joe Biden. They are.
I will say that is one reason there are some patriots and some other people that are starting to now homeschool their students, because the government does control the public school system.
That's right, and that's why I have Timothy Bible College and the Little Red Schoolhouse up on my website. They can provide the education. They can do it at a fraction of the cost of the colleges, which are simply trying to rip you off. And folks, we're out of time. Help me buy that steak. Help me buy that steak tonight. I'd like to have a nice birthday dinner with a nice steak. Make a donation at freeamerican.com. Candy, I'll be back with you in just a minute here. God bless you, and I love you, and you are the...
Discover what's really going on in the news that mainstream media won't tell you. Are you frustrated with your elected politicians? Get the news behind the news at truthradio.com. At Truth Radio, you can listen live or listen to a large selection of archived programs on demand. Listen when you want to. truthradio.com. The truth is out there. All you have to do is open your mind and listen.